Itsuki is a disgusting creep who ignores other girls so he can write fan fiction about himself clapping his sister. However, everything changes when he meets a busty girl who's obsessed with his degenerate stories, and she slowly makes him fall for her by pushing him to fill up her plot hole.
You can have one of my eggs.
In the story that our boy, Itsuki, created, he made a story about a guy who starts his day getting woken up by his sister without plot armor. The sister wakes up her brother by kissing him and tells him that she prepared him a breakfast she made out of love. The dude continues his morning by washing his face using his sister's bath water and joins his sister in the dining room, joined by a person who should have died the day before. He eats her sister's cooking, an omu rice made from her sister's eggs, and drinks his sister's milk, which he enjoys very much. But to make the breakfast sweeter, his sister pulls her used undies from another world for him to eat, which to him tastes like gourmet food. Suddenly, the editor, Toki, questions Itsuki about what kind of degenerate story he just created, and while Itsuki thinks it's a masterpiece, Toki tells him that it's trash. The two of them go back and forth about the story Itsuki just created, and Toki tells him that he writes just like how cats swim, both horrible, but Itsuki disagrees, stating that his sister-loving masterpiece could make Shakespeare tremble in fear with how good it is. After hours of argument, Toki decides to reject the manuscript and informs Itsuki that he should start a new novel, one without a little sister as a character. As Toki is leaving the apartment, he runs into and greets Itsuki's little brother, Chihiro, who's heading to Itsuki's place to cook for him. But as he is leaving, Toki imagines what it would be like if Itsuki has a little sister and how it would probably make him not obsessed with little sisters. When Chihiro gets to the apartment, he asks Itsuki if his meeting with Toki went well, and Itsuki lies, saying that it did. He starts cooking in his kitchen, and moments later, Itsuki's friend, Haruto, pops up and strolls right in after smelling Chihiro's cooking. He asks about his novel, and when Itsuki tells him that he got rejected, Haruto is surprised as he thinks that the sister-loving novel is great. Then, the doorbell rings, and when Itsuki opens, his other friends, Nayuta and Miyako, are there. Nayuta wastes no time asking Itsuki to bump bellies with her, but she assures them that it was her way to greet him. When they step inside, Nayuta suggests that Chihiro call her his sister-in-law, but both he and Itsuki reject her proposal. After hearing about his rejected novel, Nayuta is happy that she's the only one who got to read it aside from the editor. But to her disappointment, both Miyaki and Haruto inform her that they have also read it, which makes her feel less special. While waiting for Chihiro's cooking, Haruto suggests that they play a game, and while Nayuta wants to play hide the pickle with Itsuki, they all decline and opt for Haruto's game, the turtle soup. He explains that it's a game of guessing a situation through yes or no questions. Itsuki starts by giving a situation about an ugly girl whom all men can still love unconditionally, asking them why the girl is lovable. But everyone knows and answers that it's a little sister, which surprises him with how easily readable he is. Then, Haruto gives a situation about a novelist who gets praised by his editors for missing his deadline, asking why he got praised, and while confused, the others start asking Haruto questions. Itsuki starts by asking if the novelist is a little sister, or if he has a little sister, but Haruto tells him no to all of his sister-loving questions. However, using his high IQ, sister-obsessed brain, Itsuki manages to crack the code and determines that the reason why the novelist was praised was because he was able to save his editors who were locked in their editing room because he was late and was not in that room. Then, they drink and have dinner that Chihiro prepared, and praise him for it. Nayuta tells Itsuki that he should be more like his brother and learn how to cook. But Itsuki believes that if he has a cute little sister to cook for, he'll be Gordon Ramsay. Afterward, Haruto gets a text from his editor that he is needed somewhere, and he informs the others that his novel will be made into an anime, so he's needed elsewhere. Then, Miyako and Chihiro follow his lead and go home as well, leaving Itsuki with Nayuta alone. She suggests that they should shake the bed together, but Itsuki doesn't want to. Just then, Nayuta wants to drink some booze, but not wanting her to get drunk, Itsuki pulls the drink back, which ends with the drink spilling all over Nayuta and the table. He tells her to clean up, and in the shower, while feeling down, she remembers how Itsuki's novel touched her soul and made her into the cheerful personality that she is. When she steps out of the shower, while sniffing Itsuki's undies, she expresses how much she loves him. Afterward, Nayuta heads home, leaving her wet clothes at Itsuki's house. It reminds him of the first time they met when Nayuta confessed her feelings for Itsuki, but puked at him because of her nerves. He then looks at Nayuta's debut novel, and he remembers how, when he first read it, he was so invested in it that he read the novel for a whole day and cried in the end, thinking how Nayuta is on another level. After remembering that moment, Itsuki turns on his laptop and goes straight to work on his next masterpiece. The next morning, to help channel his inner big brother, Itsuki is busy role-playing a freaky little sister in the bathroom who wants her brother's milk. Meanwhile, Miyako is outside his apartment, wanting to spend some time with him, and pretends that she needs to study at his place. However, before she gets to press his doorbell, Nayuta pops up, also wanting to meet Itsuki. They try pressing his bell, but Itsuki is too busy role-playing, and they think that he's not home. They find that his door is not locked, so they step inside, not caring about boundaries, and when Itsuki is in the middle of role-playing himself bumping bellies with his sister, Nayuta takes pictures of him, causing him to panic. When he tries to explain himself, Nayuta knows that it's for his novel, but when Miyako sees him, she panics and wishes that her eyes were bleached after seeing his cheeks. After they leave, the bell rings again, but when Itsuki opens the door, Haruto is there. While Itsuki greets him with only a towel, but because it's tiny, the towel falls off, giving Haruto a sweet scene. Meanwhile, the girls are at a cafe, talking about Itsuki's plots, and while Miyako is flustered, that confuses Nayuta, who knows that Miyako has dated multiple dudes. Nayuta wishes she were as daring as Miyako and could do hot yoga with Itsuki all the time, but Miyako tells her that she doesn't just bump bellies with anyone. Nayuta asks Miyako how she became friends with Itsuki, considering that they're very different from each other, and Miyako tells the story. Years ago, they went to the same college, and while Miyako was a party girl who hung out with other party girls, she noticed Itsuki from afar, being all alone, busy in his own world, and writing something. It makes her feel that, unlike her and other people, Itsuki was someone who was busy with more important things, which piqued her interest. So, one day, she tried talking with Itsuki, and when she found out that he was a novelist, she also found out that he was very distant from people. Then, after reading his novel, she told him in class how she doesn't understand why his novel is very focused on spicy cardio with little sisters. But Itsuki was offended by her normal criticism. He told her that a simpleton who likes to get passed around the block like her could never understand a masterpiece like his novel. But that hurts Miyako, and she slapped his face. She started crying, telling him that he was mean, and everyone in class had their attention on them. Itsuki realized that he had messed up, and that Miyako was not like his haters, who always sent him hate messages over his novels. He attempted to apologize, but instead insulted her even more and told her to shut her mouth, so she stopped crying. When they realized that everyone was watching them, they sat down and started becoming friends. She started getting closer to him, but it changed when Itsuki told her that he was quitting school, not wanting to waste any more time away from her job as a novelist. But while that annoyed Miyaki, she was frustrated with how, unlike her, Itsuki was someone who followed his heart. After hearing that story, Nayuta expresses how jealous she is that Miyako gets to go to school with Itsuki. Miyako asks Nayuta if she really loves Itsuki, and Nayuta tells her that she does and that she loves everything about him. Suddenly, Nayuta invites Miyako to her hotel room, and while surprised, she accepts the offer. Once they are inside, Miyako is shocked seeing Nayuta stripping off her plot covers, but she explains that she always writes her novels that way. While writing, Nayuta remembers how she first met Miyako and treated her coldly. She remembered how she confronted Miyako about her feelings for Itsuki and how, while Miyako claimed that she had no feelings for him, Nayuta did, and it was because Itsuki's books saved her from her terrible life of getting bullied. However, after hearing that, Miyako hugged Nayuta, saying how she wished she had been there for her, and they became good friends ever since. Meanwhile, Haruto is having dinner at Itsuki's place, and when Chihiro serves the food, he takes a sus selfie together with the boys. Itsuki asks what it's for, and Haruto informs him that by acting like he loves the homies, he will gain more fans from the glizzy-loving communities. He suggests that Itsuki should be a glizzy gobbler with him to gain more fans, but Itsuki refuses to, not wanting to be liked for anything but his craft. Back with the girls, Nayuta suddenly asks Miyako to let her mingle her melons for her novel. But while Miyako orders her to mingle her own melons, Nayuta states that the character in her book has the same size as Miyako's. After finishing, Nayuta goes back to work, and while seeing Itsuki's novel, Miyako thinks to herself how, unlike her, Nayuta and Itsuki are pursuing their passion. Back with the boys, being drunk, Itsuki vents about his desire to have a little sister. But when Haruto, who has a little sister, warns him about how little sisters are little devils in disguise, Itsuki refuses to believe it, saying that his little sister is an angel. Then, after Chihiro leaves, Itsuki is left drunk and asleep, so Haruto heads home. During his walk, Haruto remembers years ago how, in his debut novel, while good, it was considered playing it safe, generic, and nothing special. Meanwhile, Itsuki's novel, while considered a challenging read, was also a unique piece of art, and is one that most critics would look forward to. It somewhat makes Haruto jealous, knowing that his novel is considered behind Itsuki's artistically. When he gets home, his little sister scolds him, telling him to stop posting pictures posing like he loves dudes, but while he tries to defend himself, stating that he's trying to gain fans, the sister calls him a creepo and goes to her room. Both Haruto and Miyako face the same thing. While their lives are good, they want things that other people have, but they could never achieve, which is the desire to be true to themselves. Days later, Miyako visits Itsuki's place to find the air conditioner broken and the temperature freezing. Itsuki believes that they just need to stay under a kotatsu, but when Nayuta shows him a picture of the beach, it gives Itsuki an idea. He quickly calls Haruto, who's in the middle of a meeting, and asks him if he wants to go on a little trip with them to the warmer Okinawa. Days later, Itsuki and the girls reach Okinawa, while Haruto is stuck in a meeting, wishing he could have been there with them. They have a fancy dinner together, drinking beers they have never tasted, but when Nayuta wants to have a sip, they refuse to give it to her, saying that she gets drunk too easily. Nayuta once again professes how much she loves Itsuki, but he pretends that he doesn't hear what she says. It forces her to say outrageous things, starting from how she wants to have his babies all the way to wanting to be his personal toilet. But to everything that she says, he pretends that she is yapping gibberish. To stop her from continuing, he offers her to eat an egg, but she purposefully eats the egg the same way your mom eats her mailman's eggs every day in secret. That night, while working on his novel, Itsuki gets a visit from Miyako, who offers him to drink more with her. Then, while getting more drunk, Miyako asks Itsuki what he feels towards Nayuta. She suspects that Itsuki has been dragging her along, but to her surprise, Itsuki reveals that he has rejected Nayuta's feelings like a gentleman a long time ago. But since then, Nayuta has been visiting his place ever since. After a while, Itsuki gets fully drunk and tells Miyako that if she has no interest in becoming a novelist, she should read Nayuta's novels, as Itsuki himself considers Nayuta's work to be way better than his. The next morning, during breakfast, they talk about where they want to go, and while the girls want to go to the beach, Itsuki wants to go to a deserted island as inspiration for his novel. Then, they look around Okinawa, visiting monuments, trying out delicacies, watching local whales, and even trying out the world's best and worst drink, the ANW root beer. Then, they visit the beach, but not caring about who's staring. Nayuta takes off her plot armor and jumps straight into the ocean. While Miyako scolds her for being exposed, Itsuki hides behind a rock, not wanting to see any other plots than her imaginary little sisters. However, when Miyako sees just how much Nayuta is enjoying herself, she wishes that, deep down, she could live her life like hers. After being encouraged, Miyako joins Nayuta in the water with her plots out. But when Nayuta sees Miyako's body, she compliments how toned she actually is. She informs Nayuta that she used to play sports and was considered a future athlete before quitting. Miyako recalls how her friends all wanted her to join their respective sports clubs for being athletic, and she rejected all of them. But she now wonders if she would have been someone who's dedicated if she were to accept their offers. Suddenly, Nayuta sprays water at her, and the two girls enjoy their time in the ocean. All the while, Itsuki is stuck behind a rock, wishing he could join them. After the Okinawa trip, Itsuki creates a story about a whale who has a human little sister, and after he gets help from a fellow whale to defeat his enemies, the whale claps his human little sister. He shows this story to his illustrator, Setsuna, and while he appreciates the story, his editor, Toki, hates it and rejects his manuscript. It makes them both wonder how a whale would even clap a human, but Setsuna, in an instant, draws what he thinks it looks like to Itsuki, and when he sees it, it makes him wish that he were the whale. Drawing the whale eggs makes Setsuna want to eat some salmon roe, so he suggests to Itsuki that they eat some, and while he agrees, it shocks him that Setsuna brings him to Hokkaido. However, they just decided to enjoy their dumb decision to go to Hokkaido, walking through the blizzard, sleeping in the same room, and eating so much seafood that they get a stomachache. On their last hour, they have another meal, but to Itsuki's surprise, Setsuna tells him that he's going to stay for another week in Hokkaido to enjoy some more. Then, at the airport, after Setsuna drops off Itsuki, Toki calls Itsuki. He asks about Setsuna's whereabouts, and when Itsuki asks that he was just with him, Toki tells Itsuki that Setsuna hasn't drawn the illustration for their newest volume. Toki gets angry, demanding Setsuna's whereabouts, but in that moment, he hears the sound of the airport. He asks Itsuki where he is, and when he says that he's in Hokkaido, Itsuki quickly hangs up, knowing that he's screwed, and wishes Setsuna good luck. On the flight back home, Itsuki recalls his conversation with Setsuna before heading to Hokkaido, where he told Setsuna that he felt that his writing didn't deserve Setsuna's drawings, but Setsuna assured Itsuki that he enjoyed working with him, and now Itsuki promises to write a series worthy of Setsuna's art. Inspired by his trips to Okinawa and Hokkaido, Itsuki writes a story about a beach trip, but during it, the girls are under attack by a sudden blizzard. The boys quickly use their magic to defend themselves, but realizing that the blizzard is caused by magic, the main character quickly heads out to save his little sister. Itsuki feels happy with the progress he's making, complimenting his previous trips, but that gives Chihiro inspiration, so using the ingredients his brother brought home, Chihiro cooks foods inspired by Itsuki's trips, which Itsuki enjoys a lot. When he's about to go home, Chihiro asks Itsuki if he's ever gonna go back home to the family, and he tells his little brother that he will sometime later. He hands Chihiro a souvenir for him and the whole family, but when Chihiro smiles, Itsuki folds, wishing that he were a little sister. The next day, Itsuki is stuck and frustrated, not knowing what to write down as the summary of his next volume. Miyako assumes that it means he's already finished, but to her surprise, Itsuki informs her that he's not even halfway there, even though the deadline is close. After thinking hard on how to get through it, Itsuki decides to just write an unorganized summary, but making sure that it's according to the story and engages the audience while hoping that he doesn't screw it up. Sometime later, Haruto comes to visit with some booze in his hand, and when Itsuki asks what he brought, Haruto tells him that he has a chocolate-flavored beer that he got from the store for Valentine's Day. Wanting a taste, Itsuki asks to have a sip, and Haruto takes the chance to tempt Itsuki, asking him to beg Haruto to pour his black liquid in his mouth. When the girls spot them, Miyako has no idea what's happening while Nayuta enjoys the scene, imagining that Itsuki was begging her for her juices instead. Then, they gather around to drink together, and because of their trip to Okinawa, Nayuta pulls out a can of root beer. After they make a toast, Haruto forces Itsuki to take glizzy-loving pictures with him for his social media, and Haruto states that it gains him even more fans. They talk about how Nayuta rejected every offer to adapt her novel into an anime, and she firmly states that she refuses to work more as she wants more time to spend on Itsuki. Haruto can relate to her as he wants to quickly finish the anime so he can go back to tabletop RPG, but seeing the two talk about their success annoys Itsuki a little. Just then, Nayuta pulls out Valentine's chocolate for Itsuki, and when he looks at it, he suspects that she put some love potion inside it. But while Nayuta initially wanted to do that, she assures him that it was store-bought. Miyako brings out her chocolates, but gives them to both Itsuki and Haruto, saying it's a friendship chocolate. Then, they eat some leftover beef stew that Chihiro made for Itsuki the night before, and they praise it for being better than anything Jamie Oliver can cook. Just then, the doorbell rings, and when Itsuki sees that it's his editor, Toki, he tries running away, but Toki barges inside, demanding the manuscript. Toki greets Haruto and Nayuta, but when he spots Miyako, he asks who she is, to which she answers that she is just Itsuki's friend. Suddenly, Toki pulls out 2 bags of chocolates, saying that they are chocolates for Itsuki and Haruto from their fans. To their surprise, Itsuki receives more chocolate from Haruto, who is known to sell more copies than Itsuki. While Itsuki is feeling like he's on top of the world, Haruto tells him that the chocolate is for his characters, not him, and Nayuta backs that statement, saying how she's the only one who truly loves him for who he is. Itsuki couldn't care less about their logic and eats the chocolate, and to Nayuta's surprise, Itsuki eats the chocolates elegantly, which is what she wished Itsuki would have done with her chocolate. The next day, Miyako comes to Itsuki's place again, but he informs her that she needs to leave as he has a guest coming. She asks who it is, and Itsuki reveals that it's a tax accountant who will help him, an author, to get some of his overspent taxes back by counting and minimizing his accounting expenses. Then, the tax accountant, Ashley, pops up at his door, carrying a suitcase and ready to represent the IRS. Once she gets inside, she's impressed by how tidy the place is and asks for his income reports. While reading it, she asks Itsuki multiple questions, from how much he spends on groceries every month, all the way to if he likes to pay grannies $20 an hour every Saturday night. Then, she checks the stuff in his room and helps him decrease how much he owes to the tax office by signing off on his items as a work necessity. When she asks about his little sister action figures, she asks about their purpose, and Itsuki firmly declares that he needs them to help him jizz and use them for inspiration. So Ashley decides to sign them off as his work stuff. Then, she looks through his games where little sisters get clapped, asking him about what they are for, and Itsuki tells her proudly that they are corn games that he uses alongside the action figures to help him cream. After hours of auditing his whole income and outcome, Itsuki manages to finish his tax issue, but can't help but feel that he just got embarrassed. The next day, Haruto hangs out at Itsuki's place, and after what happened the other day, Itsuki tells Haruto, who suggested Ashley to him, that he got drained but managed to save 3 times more money than the year before because of her. However, wanting Haruto to taste the same fate, Ashley himself pops up after Itsuki invited her. Haruto quickly gets on his knees, remembering the horror he experienced with Ashley, and Ashley reminds her about all the gooning games he owned that involved grannies and their soft, juicy gums. She also reminds him of his love for maids, and when he tries to explain himself to Itsuki about his degenerate desires, Ashley teases him for it. She starts naming all of her maid-loving creamy games to his ears, which makes him want to drink bleach, but to his shock, Ashley starts tempting him to make fun of him, saying how she would wear maid outfits for him. While he tries to deny his own desires, she continues pushing the idea of herself becoming his loyal, gentle maid, which forces him to imagine her in a maid outfit and almost busting a fat one. Before leaving, she asks Itsuki if he's going to use her services again the next year, and when she promises to call him Oni-chan, he agrees fully. Days later, while in public, Miyako spots Itsuki sneaking around, trying to be stealthy, and when asked, Itsuki reveals that he's going to a karaoke all alone. But Miyako asks to come with him so they can spend time together. However, to her disappointment, Itsuki explains that he ran to the karaoke to avoid Toki, who has been chasing him for his deadline. But to his shock, Toki pops up. He asks Toki how he knows that he's there, and Toki reveals that he has a tracker in Itsuki's phone to always know his position, not caring that it's a crime, all for the sake of the novel. He picks up Itsuki like a toy to bring him to his office and hands Miyako his business card, telling her to call him whenever Itsuki tries to escape again. At the novel publishing office, Toki sets up Itsuki with a laptop, telling him to finish the manuscript before the deadline. But after he stares at the laptop for a couple of minutes, Itsuki realizes that he will never finish on time, so he decides to escape. Like Prime Solid Snake, he sneaks around inside a box to escape the office, but he runs into Setsuna, who has just finished attending a meeting. Setsuna invites Itsuki to your favorite activity, admiring people's rice cakes, and moments later, they end up at the public bath to achieve that goal. After deactivating the tracker, Itsuki and Setsuna prepare to go into the mixed bath, and Itsuki asks Setsuna why he wants to see rice cakes that badly. Setsuna reveals that he has faced a creative block while drawing some cheeks, so he needed inspiration to keep the flow going. As they're about to enter the mixed bath filled with hot babes, Itsuki clocks Setsuna's chiseled abs and realizes that he's out of his league with his skinny fat belly. However, when Itsuki takes off his pants to reveal his rice cakes, Setsuna praises the buns, saying that they're ripe for eating. Then, they prepare themselves mentally for all the sweet cheeks they're about to encounter, but to their depressing shock, Itsuki sees that the mixed bath is filled with grannies who look like your exes, and starts rethinking his decisions. However, unlike him, Setsuna doesn't discriminate and socializes with the old prunes, as he believes that the older the fruit, the tastier the juice. When the old prunes see Itsuki, they try to lure him in with their saggy potatoes, but Itsuki refuses to be involved and runs to the men's bath, leaving Setsuna in the prune-loving wonderland. Then, while Itsuki is enjoying himself in the men's bath, Toki pops up, which terrifies Itsuki, revealing that Toki also had a tracker in Itsuki's clothes. He drags Itsuki back to the publishing office, but this time, he eats him inside a locked, dark room that looks like your freaky uncle's hidden basement, ordering him to finish the novel, or he will unsubscribe his life. Itsuki asks him about the bathroom, and Toki shows him a box that will act as his potty box, not caring if it smells. Itsuki initially feels defeated, thinking that it's over for him, but he ends up deciding to start writing. After the traumatic experience he had with the saggy prunes, he uses it to create minotaurs in his story, giving conflict for his main character to go against. But because his trauma is too much, he stops his writing for the day, not wanting to have a heart attack. The next day, after drinking an unhealthy amount of energy drinks, he continues the story with his main character's journey to rescue his little sister. He runs into his nemesis, but due to his fear of his editor, Toki, he gets scared for real and realizes that he is actually asleep and hasn't written a thing. At the door, Haruto pops up to check up on Itsuki and tells him that it's okay for him to give up. He talks about how his novel is already done and is already having revisions, but after hearing that, Itsuki gets fired up and refuses to give up, so he continues writing. Haruto realizes that Itsuki doesn't have his phone, so he offers if he wants to deliver a message to the others, and Itsuki asks Haruto to tell the others not to worry about him. On the last day of the deadline, Itsuki manages to reach the final scene of the story and gets himself stuck on writer's block, not knowing how to finish his own story. However, Haruto pops up again, but this time with a lunchbox made by Chihiro, who made the food as support for his brother. Haruto hands Itsuki the lunchbox alongside more chocolate from his fans, which gives Itsuki motivation. When he opens the lunchbox, he finds a plotful picture of Nayuta and Miyako with a message from Miyako, encouraging him, which gets Itsuki in his feelings. Then, he eats the food his brother made and the chocolate his fans got him, and it gives Itsuki a second lifeline. Pushed by his family and fans' support, he writes his main character's ending battle against his arch-nemesis, wanting to get back his little sister, and rise in triumph in battle before Itsuki ends the volume on a high note. He celebrates hard after finishing his masterpiece, but being tired, he falls over and passes out. Days later, with the novels released, Itsuki and Haruto spend their time at the bookstore, watching over their novel sales closely. Itsuki initially takes the lead with more sales, but Haruto, having the more popular series, quickly overturns the lead and sells more. Afterward, they have dinner together, and Itsuki vents his frustration, saying how his latest volume is his masterpiece compared to the previous chapters. He declares that his work is the best in the universe and is better than Haruto's, but Haruto plays along, saying his is better. Haruto expresses how he will one day defeat Itsuki, but under his breath, Haruto tells himself how he feels that he needs to defeat Itsuki. Just then, Itsuki gets a phone call from Toki, thinking that there's bad news, but Toki delivers good news, and to Itsuki's delight, Toki informs him that the publishing company has decided to make his novel into a manga adaptation. The next day, Toki brings Itsuki to introduce him to his manga potential artist, Kaiko, and her editor, Kohei. Itsuki gets flustered seeing Kaiko flustered, and asks Toki if Kaiko has what it takes to draw his novel, which is known to be a sister-loving degenerate fantasy, but Kohei assures him that Kaiko is capable. When he shows Itsuki Kaiko's drawings, he is astonished by how talented Kaiko is, and Kaiko expresses how much she loves Itsuki's work, stating that his story involving little sisters touched her, as she also wanted a little sister. The two of them go back and forth discussing the superiority of little sisters, and Itsuki declares that he wants Kaiko as his manga artist for the future. That weekend, the gang celebrates Itsuki's novel getting a manga adaptation, and they have themselves a picnic together. When Itsuki talks about how amazing Kaiko is as his manga artist, Nayuta gets jealous, knowing that Kaiko is a girl, saying how she is the one who understood Itsuki's novel first. However, Itsuki tells Nayuta that Kaiko can do one thing that she can't, which is talking about their love for little sisters. But while Nayuta knows that is true, she believes that her love will win in the end. Meanwhile, Haruto doesn't understand why Ashley is invited to the picnic, and she tells him teasingly that he should just enjoy her presence like how he did in the past. But Haruto tells her not to make it sound like they were bumping bellies in the past. Ashley compliments the food they're eating for its flavors, and when Chihiro informs her that he cooked it, she offers him to be her personal chef, to which Chihiro promises to consider. Being drunk, Toki vents to Miyako about his job as an editor, and Miyako feels bad that his job made him stay in the office for days before going home. However, Toki expresses how, despite the difficulties, he feels the utmost passion for his job, and Miyako feels jealous seeing how much he loves what he does. Hours later, seeing how Itsuki has blacked out drunk, Chihiro tells the others that he's going to get water at Itsuki's place, and they warn him of creeps along the way who could potentially mingle his melons. Meanwhile, Setsuna is in front of Itsuki's place, wanting to hang out, but when he realizes that he's not there, he goes home. Just then, Chihiro walks past, and when Setsuna sees him, he sees the rice cakes Chihiro is packing and realizes that he has the perfect one for his novel. Desperate to see the perfect cheeks, Setsuna bluntly asks Chihiro to let him see it. But when Chihiro declines, Setsuna jumps in to take off his plot armor forcefully to finally see some rice cakes, which ends with Chihiro kicking his face in. Later, after the picnic is over, Ashley whispers to herself how she wishes they could have more picnics in the future. But Haruto doesn't like how she said it if she's triggering a bad ending for them. After his manga deal, Itsuki has full confidence that his manga will be a success, and when Ashley supports him like a little sister, Chihiro gets jealous, knowing that he will never get Itsuki's attention. The next night, the gang gathers in Itsuki's place to watch the long-awaited first episode of Haruto's anime. But after serving them food, Chihiro goes home to their parents' house. Haruto envies Itsuki for having a brother like Chihiro and offers to trade his sibling for his little sister. But Itsuki rejects his offer, calling his sister the literal embodiment of a little devil. Haruto tries to defend his sister, but when he remembers how his sister called him a clown who likes to cream grannies, he retracts his statements. While waiting for the anime to air, Haruto suggests that they play a card game together, and to determine their turn, he lets the person with the best school experience go first. However, apart from Miyako, every single one of the novelists had a terrible school life where they are either a wimpy loser or a bum who can't bag a baddie, so Miyako goes first. They play the game with each player getting votes on whether their answer are funny enough. But when it gets to Itsuki, his card is about his mother. While he tries to play it funny, he reveals that his mother died years ago, and because the others feel bad, they let him win the game entirely. Being the loser, Miyako has to clear the table from the cards, but she spots a card that talks about loving the same person as their best friend, which reminds Miyako about her situation of also loving Itsuki, despite being friends with Nayuta. Then, after their long wait, Haruto's anime starts, and while watching, Haruto continuously looks over to his social media to see the audience's reception. The anime starts off strong, but quickly goes downhill with the voice actors sounding like your mom gagging to the animation looking like it's on par with Blue Lock. And with each second and each comment passing, Haruto gets more depressed. When the episode ends, Itsuki quickly turns off the episode, and Haruto expresses how he has deeply suspected something like that to happen. He tries to resort to drinking, but in his depressed state, he expresses how much he loves his novel, saying how it's painful for him to see his audience treat his beloved story like some kind of dump, not knowing how much passion he put into it. Suddenly, Miyako starts crying, which confuses the others, and she expresses how, even though she's not a novelist, she can feel the pain inside Haruto's heart. It touches Haruto to hear that, and he heads home, thanking Miyako for caring. On the car back home, he posts a tweet ahead of the second episode, feeling determined to continue, and remembering Miyako's sentiment stops him from quitting. A week later, after the second episode is released, Haruto reads through the comments and gives up after seeing how they hate his anime adaptation. Wanting to cheer him up, Itsuki suggests that they should play tabletop RPG-like, which is what Haruto likes to play. Later, the others show up to play Haruto's favorite game, a tabletop RPG, and he explains that it's a game where each player creates their own characters where they will participate in a story that Haruto, as the game master, will lead. Being the game master, Haruto hands them character sheets to fill up, and when the players find out that they are free to customize their characters, Itsuki chooses to be a female warrior. To his surprise, Chihiro follows his lead and becomes his little sister, which Itsuki is happy about. Not wanting to get left behind, Nayuta joins in as the youngest sister who wants to clap her sisters, but they stop her from continuing. However, Miyako chooses to be the oldest sister of the four, and it makes Itsuki feel a certain way having Miyako as his older sister, but he accepts it, stating that if you can't have a little sister, then you become one yourself. With the characters locked, the game master starts the game, telling the story about the Gageja Kingdom and the four sisters who arrive for their adventure. Upon arriving, Haruto informs them that they are broke from the journey, so they need money. While others want to find a job and enter dungeons to find treasure, Itsuki suggests that they should just get their cheeks on sale for $20 an hour. However, while they're discussing, Haruto informs them that a group of crusty-looking dudes pop up, and they offer the girls some money just to come into their basement. While Itsuki gladly accepts their deal, he lacks the women's intuition, and Miyako informs him that these dudes want to do the nasty with them. Before the group starts fighting, Haruto lays down ground rules for fighting and hands them their very own character pawns, saying how their agility affected their attack turns. Then, they start throwing hands, but despite their best efforts, the gooning dudes push them back and force them to defend. Without much choice, Nayuta suggests to Miyako that they use her skill on her, which is the ability to power up someone tenfold by progressing the plot with them. While Miyako initially hesitates, Nayuta wastes no time kissing her and giving everyone there an eyeful of what it looks like when girls play rock, paper, scissors, but without the first two. All the while the real Nayuta narrates the hot yoga play by play. Just as Miyako gets her power up, soldiers show up to intervene in the battle, and the dudes run away, leaving the girls as the victors. However, with two of the girls on the floor after doing the nasty, the soldiers arrest them, saying that they committed public indecency. While rotting in prison, a princess named Sylvia pops up, asking them to do her a favor in return for their freedom. They accept her request, which is to deliver a letter to a sage in the forest. But knowing Haruto, Itsuki suspects that the story will have a plot twist where the princess will betray them, and Haruto tells him to stop spoiling the story. Then, they face goblins on their journey, and because they don't know if goblins are strong, Haruto suggests that they use their wisdom to find out. Miyako, having the highest wisdom stats, rolls the dice and finds out that goblins are weak, so they easily defeat them without breaking a sweat. Then, they walk into a beautiful lake, but while they want to take a dip in it, they don't know what is waiting for them inside it. Itsuki warns them that girls like them usually die first in movies and stories, so Haruto suggests that they find out using their intuition by rolling their dice. After they do it, they decide to take a dip and enjoy themselves anyway, believing it's safe, but to their shock, a slime monster pops up and attacks them using its tentacles. Being the degenerate, Nayuta enjoys getting tentacles on her body, but the others don't, so using her magic, Miyako escapes the slimy tentacles. She tries to defeat the monster with her staff, but it doesn't work, so she states that she can't defeat it alone. Itsuki uses unlimited blade works to get Chihiro free from the tentacles, and when asked why he saved him first, Itsuki says that little sisters are priorities, not caring about Nayuta, who's still stuck. Chihiro frees them both, and they finish the tentacle monster with ease. Then, they arrive at the sage's castle to send him a message, but not caring about what Sylvia told them, they decide to read what the letter says. They read how Sylvia is betraying them and is setting them up to get ambushed in the castle. And while the others just want to go home, Nayuta has a better idea, and that is to burn the castle down. Using her power of bumping bellies, Nayuta gives Miyako a power-up, and she burns down the castle, yeeting the sage from existence. Then, they confront Princess Sylvia for her betrayal, and when she tries to attack the group, Chihiro blocks her attempt, and using his weapon creation skills, Itsuki restrains Sylvia in the slime's tentacles, torturing her in ways that are not PG. With Sylvia captured, the group is honored by the kingdom, and they live happily ever after, which ends the game session. Then, they snack on food together while talking about how great their game session are, and after everyone goes home, Haruto thanks Itsuki for the game session. Itsuki states that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but Haruto knows that Itsuki set up the game session to cheer him up after his anime's failure. Knowing that tabletop RPG is Haruto's favorite kind of game, Haruto expresses how he has a passion for creating things for people to enjoy, just like the story in the RPG, and that love of his makes him realize that he shouldn't give up just because of his first failure. Moments later, while being half drunk, Haruto sees what Miyako wrote on her character sheet, and he asks Itsuki if she has a boyfriend. Without thinking too much, Itsuki quickly knows that Haruto is interested in Miyako, and Haruto admits that he is and is curious whether Miyako has a potential baby daddy lined up. In that moment, Itsuki straight up asks Miyako if she's dating anyone, which makes Haruto panic, but when Miyako sees the text, she's in shock, thinking that Itsuki is interested in dating her. So, she tells Itsuki that she's not seeing anyone, but to her disappointment, Itsuki reacts casually to her response, like he doesn't care. After that, Miyako's dating life is revealed. Haruto makes it his mission to ask her out, saying how it will bring his morale back up after his anime's failure, and Itsuki tells him that he will help him in getting Miyako. However, later in the day, Itsuki quickly realizes that he doesn't know what to do, but Nayuta informs him that Miyako's birthday is approaching and she wants to make a surprise party for her. He sees his chance to help Haruto make a move on Miyako, and agrees to let them celebrate in his place. They talk about what gifts they can give to Miyako, but with both of them being antisocial losers, they have no clue what to buy girls like Miyako, even though they write books where girls get rizzed up. While thinking of what presents to get, Itsuki notices just how much Nayuta cares for Miyako, and she wholeheartedly admits that she loves Miyako. When Itsuki asks her why, Nayuta expresses how she loves that she can rely on Miyako like an older sister, and it almost makes Itsuki cream to see Nayuta act like a little sister. Then, they have the idea of getting Miyako an autograph of their favorite author, and Nayuta asks her directly who it is, but to their surprise and Itsuki's pleasure, Miyako reveals that Itsuki is her favorite author, so Itsuki gifts her his signature. On the day of her birthday, they surprise Miyako at Itsuki's place, and Nayuta greets her, leading the others to give her a happy birthday. Then, they enjoy doing birthday activities, from playing games to blowing on the candles, all the way to giving Miyako the presents. When it's Nayuta's turn to hand her present, she gifts Miyako a memory card and explains that she wrote Miyako a novel with her as the main character. Itsuki wants to read it, believing that it's peak, but Nayuta tells them that only Miyako can read it, which Miyako is looking forward to doing. Then, they ask her what it feels like to get older, and she expresses how she thought she would feel more mature, and the others could relate, saying how they felt the same. However, Miyako tells them that, unlike them, she's not independent or working, which makes her feel like she's falling behind. She starts getting emotional, wishing she could have been a hardworking person or have someone to love. Nayuta reminds her how she already dated multiple dudes in the past, but Miyako confesses to her that it is a lie. She admits that she doesn't have any dating experience, or that she's a mature woman who everyone thought she was. In tears, she begs them not to hate her for her lies, but Nayuta assures her that the reason she loves her is not because she's mature, but it's because Miyako is a genuinely good person. Miyako embraces her, telling Nayuta how much she loves her, and while Nayuta thought about kissing her, Miyako reminds her that her lips belong to Itsuki. That night, Miyako reads the novel Nayuta created for her, and when she reads it, Miyako gets transported into another world where she's the main character. When it gets to the spicy part, she stops herself from reading, realizing that the knight who's doing the hot yoga with her is exactly like Itsuki. But she continues reading it until the morning, where she plays DJ on her pastrami while reading, which makes her realize just how amazing Nayuta is as a writer. Meanwhile, after the birthday party, Haruto confronts Itsuki for hooking him up with Miyako, and Itsuki reveals that he forgot and doesn't know what to do. It surprises Haruto that Itsuki doesn't know what to do despite being a rom-com writer, but that gives Itsuki an idea, and inspired by what he is currently writing, he suggests that they go to an amusement park. The next day, despite the amusement park being crowded, they manage to get in, and Nayuta gets so excited as she has never gone to an amusement park before. Miyako tells her that she should pick the first ride, and Nayuta picks the one that's the scariest, which makes Itsuki nervous. He asks that she pick another ride, saying how it's his first time, but Nayuta also tells him that it's her first time, so they should experience their first times together. When they get on the ride, Itsuki fully accepts his fate, but after the ride is over, to his surprise, he enjoys the ride and encourages Nayuta that they should try all the rides. Then, they go on all the rides and enjoy themselves, catching up on the fun they never experienced. It gets Itsuki closer to Nayuta, which makes Miyako jealous. But when Haruto asks her what's wrong, she tells him that she feels tired. The two of them take a quick break, and Haruto takes the chance to get to know Miyako, asking her what she does on her days off. She informs him that she usually hangs out with her friends, and she asks him the same question. Haruto tells her that he usually plays video games inside, which surprises Miyako as she always thought that Haruto was the playboy type. Haruto asks her if she has read the novel Nayuta made for her, and while remembering her creamy night read, she tells him that she has and that it makes her realize just how truly great Nayuta is as a writer. Later, before going home, Itsuki wants to ride one more ride, and Nayuta joins him. She pulls him with her by the hand, but when Haruto looks at Miyako, he realizes how jealous she feels seeing Nayuta with Itsuki, and that there's no place for him in Miyako's heart. On their way home, Itsuki secretly asks Haruto if he has made progress with Miyako, and he tells him that he hasn't, which disappoints Itsuki. Just then, Haruto asks Itsuki to stop helping him in getting Miyako, and while Itsuki agrees to his request, Haruto knows just how cruel it would be if Miyako knows that Itsuki holds no feelings for her. Meanwhile, Kaiko and Kohei have just submitted their first draft of illustrations for Itsuki's manga, but when Toki sees it, he realizes that it has issues. The next day, he takes the illustration to Itsuki, who is excited to see the illustrations for his manga's first chapter, and when he looks at the first few pages, he is in awe at what he's seeing and praises Kaiko, calling her a genius. However, when he looks for his manga's plotful scenes, he's furious to see that the little sister in his story is wearing clothes. Then, they call Kaiko and Kohei to confront them. demanding that Kaiko explain why his little sister character is wearing underwear when she shouldn't be wearing anything. Kaiko informs him that because she likes underwear, she wants to draw his characters in it. They start arguing on whether little sisters should be wearing any underwears, and while Kaiko believes that little sisters look best in underwears, Itsuki believes that as a big brother, he would want to see his little sister in all of her glory. After a hefty back and forth, Toki tries to calm them down and find a middle ground, but neither side budges as they both want their vision to come to life. Just then, the doorbell rings and Setsuna comes in, who's there to visit. However, when he hears that Itsuki's new manga artist is present, he greets her. Kaiko starts fangirling seeing the legendary illustrator, Setsuna, and he feels happy to see a new and upcoming manga artist in Kaiko. However, when he sees what Kaiko drew for Itsuki, he is initially impressed, but when he sees that she added underwear in the scenes where she shouldn't, he stands with Itsuki, saying how the underwear is off-putting for the manga. They also go back and forth on what's right, but to Itsuki's surprise, Setsuna, on the other hand, believes that the little sister should wear undies, but only the top part, leaving her luscious rice cakes open. Setsuna states that they can't leave Itsuki's manga in Kaiko's hands, but while he half-heartedly agrees, Itsuki does believe that Kaiko's drawings are the best he has seen for his manga. After hearing that, Setsuna declares that he will draw for Itsuki's manga, which surprises everyone. When asked if he can draw manga, Setsuna believes that he can. Kaiko refuses to get her place taken, so they decide to make a competition between themselves on who can make the best drawings for Itsuki's manga. Then, they set up the battle between the two artists with the three others as judges of their drawings. Before they start, to everyone's confusion, Kaiko takes off her ribbon from her head, and to everyone's shock, it turns out to be her lower plot cover this whole time. She wears it like a mask, shocking everyone even more, and when she gets asked about it, she reveals that it's her formal uniform. Itsuki is confused initially, but when he remembers how Nayuta and he did some weird nonsense while writing, he allows her to proceed. Then, the two artists draw what they think is best for Itsuki's manga, putting their blood, sweat, and tears into what they think Itsuki's manga should look like. After they both finish, the judges start by looking at Setsuna's first, and to their delight, they see how good his drawings are, especially the scenes involving the little sister. However, when it's time to judge Kaiko's drawings, they see that she made the little sister wear even more clothes than before, but they see that she gradually starts losing her plot covers with each chapter, which gives them a sense of story progression. So, after thoroughly judging both artists, they decide that Kaiko is the winner, stating that while Setsuna's plotful scenes are better, Kaiko is the overall better manga illustrator. Itsuki declares his defeat, declaring that Kaiko is the perfect illustrator for his manga, and she celebrates by yeeting her mask into the sky. The next day, Nayuta finds Itsuki looking at underwear catalogs, thinking that he's buying some for her. But when he explains that he's looking to get a reference for his novel, she's confused, as every bumping bellies session ends without wearing anything. Itsuki explains that because of Kaiko, he grew to realize just how wonderful underwear is, and after hearing that, Nayuta realizes that Kaiko is responsible for brainwashing Itsuki into liking plot covers. Later, with Miyako in attendance, Nayuta confronts Kaiko, telling her that, as Itsuki's future baby mama, she demands that Kaiko stop luring Itsuki into preferring girls wearing plot covers instead of going full commando. When Miyako is confused about what's going on, Nayuta reveals that Kaiko is the one who made changes to Itsuki's manga. And when Miyako doesn't understand what the harm is, Nayuta expresses her disappointment with Miyako, saying how she should have been a commando lover like her. Kaiko tells Nayuta that she's the only degenerate in that room who despises undies, stating that the beauty of underwear trumps her idea of coverless plots. After hearing that, Nayuta declares a drawing battle against Kaiko, which she accepts, and Nayuta loses horribly as her drawing looks like it came from the 7 deadly sins. It frustrates Nayuta that Kaiko insists on putting underwear in Itsuki's manga, and when Nayuta is asked why she cares so much, Nayuta expresses how she needs Itsuki to be a coverless plot lover so that when they get married, Nayuta can always go full commando and ready to bump bellies whenever. Having had enough of the BS, Nayuta takes off her plot covers fully, which scares Kaiko, and she approaches Kaiko, saying how she will make Kaiko see why coverless plots are superior. She makes Kaiko feel her melons, and when Nayuta sees how flustered Kaiko is, she realizes that Kaiko has never tasted what made women so good. Nayuta turns and starts touching Kaiko's plumps, making her feel the same experience your mom felt in the hands of the pool boy. She lures Kaiko into wanting to draw coverless plots in the future, But before Nayuta gets to Kaiko's roast beef, Kaiko stops her, saying how she will always love underwear and starts a counterattack on Nayuta's plots, causing her to make delightful noises that you losers will never hear in your entire lives. After the life-changing hot yoga session with Nayuta, Kaiko acknowledges that there is beauty in going commando and agrees to draw Hilda without any plot covers. However, she needs to touch melons that are the same size as Itsuki's character, and Nayuta suggests that Miyako is the perfect candidate for it. While she initially refuses to let them touch her melons, Miyako ends up folding and letting them experience her bazookas. Years ago, when Itsuki lost his mother, it was the worst day in his life, and it broke him to see his own father married someone else so quickly after losing his wife. But despite his hatred for his father, Itsuki became closer to his stepbrother, Chihiro, which he is happy about. During lunch, Chihiro informs Itsuki that he will be taking on a part-time job, and when Itsuki asks him where, Chihiro reveals that he will be working under Ashley as her assistant, which shocks Itsuki. However, when Chihiro tells him that Ashley will also be helping him in learning tax accountant, Itsuki gives him his blessing and wishes him the best of luck. Then, Chihiro arrives at Ashley's office, and when he enters her office, she explains that she needs him to clean and organize files for her. She starts by showing him a dirty kitchen she hasn't been cleaning, and while Chihiro sees just how dirty it is, he feels confident that he can do the job, knowing that he's used to cleaning Itsuki's room, that is also as dirty. He wastes no time cleaning the place until it's spotless and even hunting down cockroaches while at it. Hours later, he presents the room to Ashley, and she is astonished by how clean the room is. As a reward, Ashley lets Chihiro take a warm bath to clean himself. However, in the middle of taking off his clothes, Ashley walks in and realizes that Chihiro is a she all along. Being both girls, they bathe together, and Chihiro reveals that while she's a normal girl, Itsuki is the only one who treats him like a boy, which forces her to act like one in front of Itsuki and his friends. She promises to one day tell him the truth, but Ashley warns her of the outcome, reminding her of Itsuki's unhealthy love for little sisters, which intrigues Ashley. Meanwhile, Itsuki created a new story where the main character's sister is a 7-foot ugly monster, who is so ugly that it needed to get censored, just like your crusty-looking mother. When Toki reads it, he realizes that Itsuki has some loose screws up his head and scolds him, saying that none of his audience could relate, let alone love his new story, so Itsuki should focus on his current existing novel. Toki warns Itsuki that if he's late to the deadline again, he will be sent back to prison, and out of fear, Itsuki promises that he will be on time. Later, Itsuki gets stuck in writing his volume's climax, and wanting to look for inspiration, he invites Nayuta to go to the zoo with him, which she gladly agrees to. They first look at a panda who is just a chill guy, sitting down, eating bamboo, and gaining popularity. However, they can't help but notice the panda's massive Slim Jim, which makes Itsuki jealous of how a panda can get so popular for being a lazy bum who sits all day with his willy out. They look at multiple different animals, but instead of looking for inspiration, Itsuki ends up enjoying himself, which Nayuta doesn't mind. She talks about the baby jewels she saw on a kangaroo, which makes her wonder if it hurts the kangaroo every time it jumps. From the trip, she shows Itsuki all the pictures of baby jewels she took from all the animals, which come in different shapes and sizes, but the only species she's yet to take a picture of is a human. Itsuki tells her not to target him, but she can't help looking at his danger zone, which makes him embarrassed. However, she reveals that she still has a picture of him from before with his rice cakes out, and while he tells her to delete it, she can't help but admire his wonderful cheeks. After the zoo trip, Itsuki writes his novel volume's finale where the main villain summons his minions of darkness in the form of a panda and a kangaroo. But as he's writing, he realizes that it's still not good enough, and he still needs more inspiration. Itsuki gets an idea of using another type of animal, and tells Chihiro that he will check out the aquarium again, but when he invites her to go with him, Chihiro gladly agrees to go. Chihiro points out how it's the first time they went somewhere together, and that reminds Itsuki of the time Chihiro used to keep a distance from him and how he grew closer to her after Itsuki moved out of the family house. At the aquarium, Chihiro is excited to look at the fish, pointing at each one and how delicious they look, which amuses Itsuki. Afterward, Itsuki jokes about how Chihiro only sees the fish because of how edible they are, but he informs her that it gave him the inspiration to create a character who sees everything as food. It surprises Itsuki with how excited Chihiro was, and she tells him that it's because he never invited her anywhere. But after hearing that, Itsuki feels bad and promises to invite her to more places, which pleases Chihiro to hear. When Itsuki drops her off at the train station, they find out that the train will be delayed due to issues, so Itsuki decides to order a taxi for them, and they will be dropping off Chihiro first. When they get to the house, Chihiro offers Itsuki to stay the night and meet his family after a long time not meeting them, but Itsuki refuses to do so. Just then, the father pops up, and despite his best efforts to talk to Itsuki, he chooses to ignore the old man, still hasn't forgiven him for what he did. The father thanks him for the souvenir he bought, and Itsuki coldly responds to him that it's nothing to him. When Chihiro exits the taxi, she expresses how she wants him to patch his relationship with their father so they can go back to being a family. And while he coldly tells the taxi to drive, Itsuki can't help but realize that what Chihiro asked for is actually for the best. Meanwhile, Haruto has just finished watching the last episode of his anime, which ends horribly and is heavily criticized. While getting a drink, his sister pops up, and just like any little sister, she treats Haruto horribly by being a brat. However, she talks about his anime adaptation, and expresses how frustrated she is to see her brother's hard work destroyed by anime studios who doesn't care about him. He gives her a pat on the head, which makes her flustered and angry, but he assures her that it will never happen again. Days later, Miyako finds Itsuki in his room, looking horrible after he hadn't slept for days to finish his deadline. He hands her his manuscript, asking him to hand it to Toki, and before she says anything, he collapses on the floor, sleeping, leaving Miyako with his manuscript. Then, she goes to the publishing office to find Toki, and she meets another novel editor, Kurara, and when Miyako tells her the reason she's here, Kurara lets her in to meet Toki, who's tweaking on the floor after a sleepless night. Kurara tells Miyako to leave the manuscript on his desk and expresses how it's always that hectic during the deadline. When Miyako sees the book in Kurara's hand, she realizes that Kurara is Nayuta's editor, and Kurara tells her that she hasn't been able to contact Nayuta. Miyako offers to check on Nayuta, and in one text, she easily gets confirmation, which makes Kurara question who Miyako is. Then, Miyako visits Nayuta in her hotel room, and without wasting any time, Miyako joins Nayuta, embracing their coverless plots. Miyako informs her about her deadline, and when Nayuta wants to play instead, Miyako orders her to finish her deadline first before they get to have fun. Nayuta agrees to her request and orders Miyako to let her use her lap as a pillow. Wanting to help her write, Miyako follows what Nayuta asked of her, and to her surprise, Nayuta writes on her smartphone. Nayuta explains that she can write using almost everything from a pencil to a toaster. While Miyako caresses her head, to Miyako's amazement, Nayuta finishes her manuscript on her smartphone quickly. Nayuta thanks Miyako for helping her finish the manuscript, suggesting that she should be her editor, and Miyako asks her if she has any issues with Kurara. Nayuta tells her that she doesn't, and Miyako suggests that she should speak more with Kurara, as it might give her better ideas, but Nayuta disagrees, stating that speaking to her editor doesn't help her at all. Back in the publishing office, Kurara thanks Miyako for her assistance and expresses how she now needs to apologize to the proofreaders for the delay. She expresses how it's her job to chase Nayuta around, unlike Toki beside her, who gets to go back and forth with Itsuki about their novel. Miyako suggests that Kurara should give her input to Nayuta, but Kurara tells Miyako that she refuses to do so, saying that nobody has a place to give input to Nayuta and her brilliant writing. Miyako asks if she ever thought about quitting, and Kurara assures her that she never had, as being her editor gave her the privilege of reading her novel before everyone else, which makes Miyako realize just how much of a fan Kurara is. Afterward, Miyako and the others celebrate the release of Itsuki and Nayuta's new volume. When Nayuta wants to thank Miyako for helping her release her manuscript, Miyako remembers how she used her plump as Nayuta's pillow, so she shuts Nayuta up, which makes Itsuki curious about what happened. Later, after they eat, Haruto suggests that they play a card game where the players create a story from the cards that they have. Itsuki starts the game by creating a story about an older brother and his little sister adventuring through the lands of the unknown while clapping here and there. But when Nayuta takes over the story, she tries to add another character resembling herself who takes away the brother from his little sister so she can clap him too. However, Chihiro tries to save the story by getting the brother back with his one true love, his little sister, but Nayuta makes it more absurd by giving the older brother a power in the form of a foot-long dangling around every time. The group continues the story with the brother with his foot long and his sister adventuring through the fictional world. where the brother uses his footlong to conquer everything, becoming the Glizzy King, and lives happily ever after in his own harem alongside his footlong. Despite the story being as weird as Boku no Pico, they feel satisfied with how the game went, despite the oddity of the main character having a footlong as his weapon. Later, after Chihito and Miyako go home, Nayuta decides to sleep on Itsuki's bed, leaving Itsuki and Haruto to talk alone. While drinking more booze, Haruto suggests that Itsuki should date Nayuta, saying how she's a great girl with big melons, and while Itsuki tells him that he already rejected her, Haruto calls him out on his BS, saying how he knows that Itsuki likes Nayuta. After a period of silence, Itsuki fully admits that he likes her so much that he wants to marry her and be with her forever. However, he believes that the timing is off as he knows that if one day he marries Nayuta, he will only be a side character in Nayuta's life as Nayuta is considered the bigger and better novelist. So before he wants to marry her, Itsuki wants to be at least equal to her. He expresses how he wants to be the protagonist compared to his current self, who is a nobody, and when Haruto asks him what he needs to do to achieve his goal, Itsuki sets his goal of having his own anime before finally telling Nayuta how he truly feels. However, unbeknownst to them both, Nayuta is not asleep, and she's blushing redder than a tomato hearing their conversation. That night, while reading Nayuta's amazing novel, he gets a phone call from Toki, and it's as if the gods have blessed him. Toki informs him that the publishing company has decided to make his novel into an anime, which makes him see his way to becoming the protagonist. Years ago, after losing her mother, Itsuki had a housemaid named Midahora who helped take care of him and cooked his food, but because he was always depressed, she always tried to cheer him up. At school, Itsuki always kept himself away from people and opted to always go home after school to read his favorite novels, and that was the moment he grew to love and desire for little sisters. One day, his doorbell rang, and when he answered, a beautiful girl named Ayan popped up on his door, and when asked who she was, she revealed herself to be Midahora's daughter. Ayan expressed how she wanted to hang out with Itsuki after hearing her mother vent to her about Itsuki a lot, whom, after hearing so much about, Ayan saw as her little brother. At that moment, Itsuki saw her like she was a protagonist, one he had always read about in his books. When Ayan saw his collection of books, she grew interested in them, and while Itsuki felt embarrassed about his collections, she assured him that she had seen plotful books where sisters get clapped before. She asked him about his favorite one, and he presented her his favorite book, titled A Sister's All You Need, which Ayan asked to borrow. After that day, Ayan always hung out at his place, reading novels and talking about them. But being a healthy man, Itsuki couldn't help falling in love with her and decided to confess to her. However, on the day he planned to confess his feelings, Ayan came to his room in tears, revealing that she had been rejected after professing her feelings to a boy she liked. Itsuki asked her what that boy was like, and Ayan talked about how the boy wasn't too handsome, but looked attractive to her when she saw him reading a novel in the bus. As she continued to talk about the boy she loved, Itsuki got annoyed and told her to stop talking. At that moment, he professed his feelings for her, saying how he loved her, but when Ayan rejected his feelings, he couldn't understand why. He expressed how he's also a medium ugly dude who likes to read novels, but to Itsuki's agony, Ayan confessed that he only saw him as a little brother. When Itsuki started crying, Ayan told him that she was going home, but out of anger, Itsuki ordered Ayan to never come to his place ever again. After she left, Itsuki started crashing out, questioning how he's less than a background character in Ayan's life, who's the protagonist, and he told himself that he wanted to be his own protagonist. He spends his days like before, being depressed and distancing himself from other people, until one day, he saw it, a novel writing competition for rookies. Having so much to say from his heart, he started writing his novel based on his love for little sisters, which to him is his way of expressing his frustrations of having an inferiority complex as a side character. But through his stories, he wanted to become the protagonist. Back in the present, Itsuki wakes up on Nayuta's lap, and when he quickly gets up, Nayuta gets flustered, already knowing his true feelings for her. Later, the group celebrates Itsuki's new anime, and Toki joins their celebration. He and Itsuki starts going back and forth trading sarcasm at each other, and Miyako realizes that while they butt heads a lot, they are actually good friends. After dinner, while Toki is asleep, the others play a game about the life of a novelist that is similar to Monopoly. They start the game, and while the others start well, Itsuki starts horribly as his novels are rejected. But unlike him, Nayuta starts with a bang by becoming a world-renowned novelist. However, as the game continues and Toki is involved, the game turns its tide in Itsuki's favor, slowly pushing him to the top of the leaderboard. After the game ends, they can't help but see that the final results of the game are similar to their real lives, with Itsuki landing at the top, even though he started slow. Despite his win, he doesn't feel satisfied at all, which surprises Miyako. But all the novelists tell her that despite all of their hardships as writers, they all have fun doing what they love. Afterward, the group leaves Itsuki's place with Toki splitting up first. But as he's leaving, Miyako chases after him. She asks him to teach her how to become an editor, and seeing how Miyako is interested in becoming one, he offers her a job at his place, which he gladly accepts. In her hotel room, Nayuta is still excited knowing that Itsuki is in love with her. But after hearing his ambition to be the best, it confuses her as to her. Itsuki is the best writer she knows. In a bookstore, Haruto looks around at his novels, and he feels happy when he hears people behind him talk about his novel as a great creation, even though the anime is as trashy as One Piece. In the bathtub, Chihiro is still contemplating her truth, and she still makes it her mission to tell Itsuki how she's actually his little sister. Meanwhile, after getting his anime adaptation, Itsuki remembers how Toki warned him that the chances of success are slim. However, despite all the odds against him, Itsuki knows that he wants to be the protagonist of his own story, so Itsuki wastes no time getting to work, fighting to create his masterpiece of an anime adaptation that is shown in Season 2 that will never come. If you watched this anime recap, comment down Sister Clapper. If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video.